This man needs no introduction. Three-time FIFA World Player of the Year, the man who defied logic, whose very name meant goals, magic, greatness. But he was doubted, not once, but twice. The world watched him fall and then watched him rise. Once again, the world bowed to his brilliance. After conquering the planet in 2002, Ronaldo seemed unstoppable. But once again, his body turned against him, and they said it was over. Maybe that was the price of glory. But for the phenomenon, the story wasn't over. There was still one last chapter to write. One last dance. After his redemption in the 2002 World Cup, the phenomenon landed in Madrid, another superstar joining the Galactico constellation at Real. Wearing the famous white shirt, the goals came flooding back. The magic was still there. "177 matches, 104 goals. La Liga, the Spanish Super Cup, the Intercontinental Cup. He added them all to his resume. But behind the scenes, shadows began to form. Criticism of his physical shape grew louder, especially in his later seasons. And that unstoppable brilliance, at times, seemed dimmed by his weight. Looking for a fresh start, in January 2007, Ronaldo made a bold move, signing with AC Milan. A shocking decision, considering it was the fiercest rival of Inter, the club where he had lived both heaven and hell. In the second half of the 2006 to 2007 season, he showed flashes of the old Ronaldo, scoring 7 goals in just 13 games. He still had that striker's instinct. And even though injuries plagued his 2007 to 2008 campaign, he managed 2 goals in 6 matches, enough to reignite hope in the hearts of football fans. Maybe Italy would once again be the stage for his lasting legacy, but fate, cruel and relentless, had other plans. At just 31 years old, another colossal challenge would rise between him and eternal glory. A single moment that would change his destiny forever. The same devastating injury that once nearly ended his career, but this time it struck his left knee. And once again, the football world watched in shock as the phenomenon's nightmare repeated itself. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the final blow. Maybe it was time to say goodbye to one of the greatest players ever to grace the game. A new surgery in Paris. A slow, painful recovery began again, but Ronaldo knew this script better than anyone, and once more he accepted the challenge, determined to prove that his nickname was more than just a name. His boyhood club welcomed him with open arms. There, under the Rio sun, the fight to come back began. Physiotherapy, individual training, and the constant battle with the scale, an opponent just as relentless as his injuries. He trained hard, he sweat. He spoke his heart.
Yes, it's always been my dream to play for Flamengo. I've been a Flamengo fan since I was a kid.
Even while clearly out of shape, his genius was undeniable. Teammates were stunned. His shooting precision, his hunger to compete, the aura of a champion, it was all still there. Gavia pulsed with life. The fans were dreaming wide awake. The return of the prodigal son felt inevitable. But as the media speculated, the fans dreamed, and the Maracanã waited with open arms for the perfect final chapter, time passed, and no official offer from Flamengo ever came. He was allowed to train, to recover, but Ronaldo wanted more. He wanted to play again, to feel the thrill of competition, and his patience was running thin. And then, in the middle of that silence, the phone rang. A concrete offer, audacious, and from the last place anyone expected. Corinthians, one of Brazil's biggest clubs, with over 30 million fans, a true giant. But in 2008, the club was rebuilding. It had just returned to the first division after the painful relegation in 2007, and fate was about to place one of the greatest players in football history at the heart of this redemption story. But doubt hung in the air. No one in their right mind believed that Ronaldo could ever be the same again. In Rio, Flamengo fans were furious, betrayed. In São Paulo, skepticism exploded. A Ronaldo, fresh off a catastrophic injury, clearly out of shape, joining a team that had just climbed out of the second division. Was this madness, a marketing stunt? The joke started, rivals mocked. One São Paulo club executive even questioned the move publicly, mocking it as nothing more than a PR stunt.
Let's be honest, Ronaldo's just a former player who refuses to hang up his boots.
The presentation photos didn't help. Ronaldo looked heavy, far from elite shape. Even Corinthians' passionate fan base was split. Of course, they'd support him, but the doubt was real. What could they expect from this version of Ronaldo? Did he still have anything left? And yet, there he was, standing on a stage at Parque São Jorge in front of thousands of screaming, die-hard fans, wearing the number 9. The pressure was massive, the skepticism unavoidable. A team defined by grit had welcomed a genius now surrounded by doubt. A fan base torn between hope and fear. How would the man who once conquered the world respond? The answer would come on the pitch, and it would be spectacular. In his debut wearing the Corinthians jersey during the first round of the Copa do Brasil, Ronaldo stepped onto the pitch in the 66th minute. The world was watching. The phenomenon was back. Every touch on the ball was scrutinized, every movement analyzed. One of the greatest players in history was under the microscope. The pressure, immense. He was still chasing rhythm, chemistry. Critics were sharpening their pens. But as always in Ronaldo's life, the answer was waiting for a bigger stage. The biggest derby in São Paulo football, and one of the greatest rivalries in Brazil, Corinthians versus Palmeiras. Corinthians' most hated rival. The country held its breath. Corinthians was down 1-0, and in the second half, the coach called him in. Everyone knew what that moment meant. And at 90 plus 2 minutes, a corner kick. The final seconds ticking away. And then history. The stadium erupts. Even the fencing collapses under the weight of emotion, of history, of destiny. Right there, at that very moment, the message was clear. The phenomenon was back. Just 4 days later, Ronaldo starts his first match against São Caetano. The crowd is electric. The cameras track his every step. And at the 71st minute, he strikes again. A single goal, precise, powerful. It wasn't just a goal, it was a statement. Corinthians wins. And everyone realizes Ronaldo still had plenty to give. Paulista Championship semi-finals. The opponent, São Paulo FC. The same club whose president had mocked Ronaldo's return months earlier, calling him a retired player in action. But what happened that day became one of the most symbolic plays of his career. Ronaldo takes off. Yes, overweight, out of prime shape, but still faster, hungrier. He starts behind the defender and finishes in front, outrunning the back line, beating the keeper and scoring like only he could. Corinthians into the final, and Ronaldo, he showed the world the weight wasn't on his body, it was on his name, on his legacy. And the final had a script worthy of a phenomenon. April 26, 2009. The final against Santos, Neymar's Santos, and Ronaldo was ready to create a masterpiece. He picks it up outside the box, notices the keeper off his line. In milliseconds, he makes the decision. He paints a masterpiece, a genius chip, a goal for the ages. With a draw in the second leg, Corinthians lifts the Paulista Championship trophy, undefeated. The media bows, the fans are in tears. Football is grateful. But there was still another final to play, the Copa do Brasil. And once again, Ronaldo delivers. Corinthians are champions. In just 6 months, he turned doubt into glory, disrespect into reverence, skepticism into worship. In 2010, the pain returned. His body, worn by years of greatness, began to demand its toll. But still, there was magic left in those feet. November 13th, 2010, Corinthians versus Cruzeiro. No one, not even Ronaldo, knew what was about to happen. Ni last twist of fate, one final moment of brilliance, a goal, against the very team that once revealed him to the world. And that goal would be the last of his legendary career, the last dance of a player who defied logic, rewrote the rules, and redefined football. His body gave out, but the phenomenon never did.